박수로 환영해 주십시오. Please welcome the attention. Thank you. 네, 여러분 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
It is such an extraordinary honor to be here today. Thank you so much for making the time. They told me, my new publisher, Influential, that there were going to be over 40 reporters from Korea coming to see me today, and I was so surprised. And I thought that they were kidding. Also, I thought that if you didn't come today, then I would line up to get bingsu. But you showed up, so it's too bad. 제가 한국말 잘못해서 죄송합니다, 진짜로. I am so grateful because I wrote this book on the very strong wish that I believe that the stories of Korean Japanese people and their history was so central to understanding the identity of Koreans around the world. And it's a belief that I had, it's a belief that I continue to have. And to have this opportunity to share this story with the widest possible audience is really important to me. First of all, I want to preface it by saying that I'm a very slow writer. And I'm a very slow writer because I do so much research. And the way I do research is very much like a journalist. I interview hundreds of people for each book. And every interview affects the way I think about the story. You're talking about racism and classism and hatred that is endemic to human nature. So throughout the history of time, people have always oppressed each other, and that troubles me. I know that it troubles every journalist here. So my next book is called Ame리칸학원, and I'm writing this book because I was interested in education. Why is education so important to Koreans around the world, not just in Korea? And as I go down this question of education, I'm also interested in what is the role of how education is actually oppressive to people. Because in Korea, very often, education is linked inextricably with status and rank and hierarchy. And I find that to be very interesting. So I'm working on that right now. So recently, I read in the Korean press that somebody translated 아메리칸학원 into American Academy.
Oh, okay.
Please don't do that. When I decided to call this book Pachinko, I was telling the world that I was interested in writing a book, and I said, in English, people must know this Japanese word because it is so important to Koreans. In the same way, I believe that the whole world should know what the word 학원 means. When we know the word babari, babari means raincoat, but it's also the word Burberry, right? We have so many loan words in English and in Korean. I believe that Korean words should also be loan words in English. 학원 is a word that Americans, people who speak English, Anglophones, should know. Why? Because the word 학원 is so central to understanding what a Korean person is. Even if you never go to a 학원, you have to know what a 학원 is. So I'm insisting on that. When I was 19 years old, I was in college, and I didn't want to go to my classes. I think the expression is 땡땡 하는 거. So my friend asked me to go to a lecture because a white American missionary was coming to the university to talk about the Korean Japanese people. So I said I would go because I didn't go to my class, and I went to this talk instead where they give you cookies and tea. I go to the lecture, and my friend and I are the only two people in the entire audience. The American missionary helped poor 제일교포 in Japan. And he told us a story about one of his parishioners. So a little boy who was Korean Japanese, he was born in Japan, but he was ethnically Korean. He climbed up to his apartment building and he committed suicide. And he was a middle school child. He was 13 years old. And his parents, also born in Japan, but they're Korean, were so sad. So they were trying to understand why would their son kill himself. And I have to tell you that I'm a mother and I have a son, and I can't imagine losing a child who's 13. So they went through all of his personal objects and they found his middle school yearbook. And in the yearbook, his classmates who were Japanese had written, "Go back to where you belong. I hate you. You smell like kimchi." And they wrote the words, "Die, die, die." When I heard this story as a 19-year-old child, I was so heartbroken and surprised, and I was angry. I'm coming to Korea again in September for the World Knowledge Forum. Before COVID, I was coming more often, and when I was living in Japan, I would come very regularly. I love coming to Korea. It is so fun for me. And I say this in the same way because I live in New York City. When you visit New York City, it's really, really fun. But if you live in New York, people complain. I'm sure you might have complaints about Seoul, but I get to see only the very best part of Seoul. So I feel really grateful to be here. I'm received with so much love and kindness when I come to Korea. And I'm really grateful.
Thank you.